Hello, everyone, and welcome to Real Estate Right Now. We talk about real estate matters that matter to you. My name is Jay Izzo, and we are live here from Linda Craft Team Studios in Raleigh, North Carolina, part of the Greater Research Triangle Park. Today's show, this is going to be one that you're all going to be interested in. I promise you will be. We are going to be talking renovations, construction, additions, and more. I have with me my good friend, Jimmy Venna, who owns JCV Construction Services, and he's going to join us. We're going to talk about that. Here's the cool thing. I want to talk to you about this, and that's this. When it comes to, construction, renovations, we're seeing more and more people do it. And obviously, one of the reasons why, and Jimmy's probably going to talk about this too, is because as interest rates have stayed pretty high as compared to what they were, people are deciding to go ahead and make changes to their current home rather than buy another home. And the other reason is that for the last several months, our inventory has been relatively low, although we're starting to see a return. People are starting to put more money into their current home. We're going to ask him some questions. Now, we're going to invite you to ask your questions, and we'll be happy to answer those when it comes to construction and renovation. We're happy to do that too as well. So without further ado, let me say hello, Jimmy. Welcome to Real Estate Right Now.
Thanks, Jay, and I really appreciate you having me on the show.
So let's talk about JCV Construction and what is it? What do you offer for services?
Well, one of the things I always tell people when they ask me what we do, I respond simply by saying, we will build you a grass hut hotel. And literally, we will build you a grass hut or a hotel. We don't really turn our nose up at any work. Yeah. We do some big multi-million-dollar contracts, but we will also come over to your house and fix a rotten corner board.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So you do both. And which is kind of interesting, because, a lot of people will fall into category, well, I only do residential or I only do commercial, but you do both. And the reason for that is it because, is because how the industry is? Or?
Well, I know that as being in the real estate market, that back in the mid-2000s, we had a real estate crisis.
Right.
And at that point, we were extremely hot and heavy into doing custom homes. We had over 100 people doing custom homes everywhere all over the triangle. And that market came to a screeching halt.
Right.
And before that crash, we started getting into doing more commercial upfits,
right.
The urban living style, where the younger generation doesn't necessarily want to be bothered with owning a yard and a home.
Sure.
And started doing a lot more remodeling. So once we diversified, we were able to offer that many more services and kind of flow with the economy and what it was going on. Although the triangle has consistently been insulated from most of the economic turmoil around the country. So it's a great place to be. I feel blessed to be here.
Oh, yeah. We all do.
Right.
I mean, we've been pretty insulated for the most part, I think, here.
Absolutely.
In the triangle. All right. So let's talk about renovations, because before the show, you and I were talking that you're doing a lot of residential renovations right now. What is the most common renovation that you're seeing in the residential market right now?
There's always a bunch of kitchens and bathrooms, sunrooms, additions, things of that nature. I think with the most recent real estate value ratchet up here in Wake County, that people are looking at their existing condition, and whether they were thinking about, buying another house or moving out, they're now saying this is a great investment opportunity, and they're putting money back into their existing house. So I'm seeing it all over the place.
So let's talk about kitchen renovations. Seem to be really, really common, and you said that they're really, really common. Why do you think, and I've heard this, maybe you can help explain it. I've heard that kitchen renovations probably give you the most money back on your investment. Is that kind of how you see it, or why do you think so many kitchen renovations?
Well, Jay, you and me both know that we love to spend a lot of time in the kitchen.
There's
Well,
no
Cook
doubt.
and
Just look at us. There's no doubt.
So, I mean, it's one of the most used spaces in any house.
Right.
It's always a focal point of entertainment.
Right.
And it's something that when you walk into a house, the kitchen is always an area that, whether you have a brand new kitchen or not, may not necessarily mean you have a higher market value for your home, but it's absolutely going to make it more marketable and more desirable for somebody to pay top dollar for it. So, and the bathrooms, of course, they just need constant renovation. Even if they're beautiful in 10 or 15 years, they just need to be upgraded.
Yeah.
So we do a lot of screened in porches and sunrooms and stuff like that, where, you know, there's a lot of outdoor living stuff going on. I think COVID in some respects kind of jumpstart the outdoor living thing. You know, fireplaces, pergolas, stuff like that. People are getting back outside again, you know. But like I said, we would come over to your house and fix a little rotten corner board or fascia board or something like that. So. Okay,
so let's talk about kitchen renovations in particular. What are you doing in a kitchen that you are doing mostly? Like, are you finding that you're doing more countertops? Are you finding that you're doing more cabinetry, flooring, redesign? What are you finding?
A lot of the times it's redesign. That I'm a stickler for not wanting to go in and take something out and put it back just the way it is, a different color. We, a lot of the times, are going to want to open up a wall space into another room, you know, kind of incorporate some type of interior rearrangement of the configuration of you know, the island. A lot of the houses built back in the early 90s and 2000s, they all had the countertop with the island kind of attached to it at the sink area. And now you see everybody wants the detached island, and a lot lot of waterfall edges on the, you know, sides of the.
No, we did that. Yeah. So
and it looks beautiful. And people seem to be steering away from the stained cabinetry and wanting the painted shaker, which is, it's timeless, you know, anything that's painted in white.
Right.
Because you got to think of how many people will look at their old cabinets that are stained and say, let's paint them white.
Right.
You know, and from an affordability standpoint, the painted cabinets are actually more affordable.
Sure. So, okay. So let's talk about, so you're seeing cabinet, but flooring has been interesting, because you and I were talking about this before, is that sometimes people are getting away. They have hardwoods. They aren't necessarily pulling them up, but they're putting LVP on top of them.
That's right. I mean, a $15 a square foot hardwood floor finished is a great substrate for LVP, which is about half the price.
Right.
But these new man-made products, with the way they're made and their raw material composite, especially the LVP flooring, is waterproof, scratch proof. It's great if you have pets. Anybody who has pets and hardwood floors can, when the sun hits it just right, you can see all their little toenail marks.
Right. You can. That's true. Yeah. Let's talk about this product, LVP, that you're putting more and more, because you've been in this business a long time. And what have you seen in terms of difference in quality in LVP over the course of years?
The particular brands of LVP that we like to use are the ones that actually have the quote unquote padding built into the bottom of the LVP, as opposed to, if you've ever seen where somebody will come in and they'll roll this floor, it's like a popcorn on a plastic mat, and then they put the LVP over it, but it makes the floor feel kind of hollow, and, you know, it's supposed to be floating. It's not, it's snap and lock, so it's not nailed or glued with an adhesive. But the ones that have the padding integrated into each piece is a much more realistic feeling of a wood floor on your foot. And when you actually, on some of the really, really nice ones, you have to really get down there and actually put your hand on it to figure out that it's not wood.
Yeah, it really does.
Because what they do is they take a computer scan of an actual piece of wood, and then they overlay that directly on top of the LVP planking. So that's why it looks
good.
Very realistic.
It's very realistic.
Especially if you're, and it's affordable for everybody, really. It's not just, I mean, we see this go in, $1 million home. You see it all the time.
Yeah.
So you used to use the word vinyl back in the days, and people were like, vinyl.
Right.
But not now. So it's considered.
Well, we've added the word luxury to it. Right? Because we used to call it vinyl plank.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Right. It was vinyl. It was, we put vinyl plank down, right? Now it's luxury.
Oh.
Vinyl.
Well, and now they have it. I think they make it up to, it's 4 foot long. I think they make it 5 foot long planks, which is a long for a piece of vinyl.
But it's so durable, and it works high traffic.
Most of them have a wear rating of 20 years or plus. Scratch resistance. I mean, your wear rating on a hardwood floor is 5 minutes. Because you're still out of the house because of the smell from the flooring. Right. I mean, the minute the dogs go in there, there's it looks like river dance on.
Yeah, it's true. It is. It's so true. All right. What about countertops? Are you seeing a particular type of countertop that's real popular right now?
Well, I remember back in the day, of course, you remember Corian. Right?
Oh, right.
That would be like,
that was
Corian.
Yeah, right.
And it was expensive then. Now, actually, Corian is more expensive than granite.
Interesting?
Granite has come down so much in cost. It's being manufactured all over China manufactures a ton of, they mine it and bring it here. Right. But what we're seeing a lot of is people steering away from the busy granite patterns on and using quartz that has like a white with some marbled veining of grays and like maroons and stuff like that. Not too busy. So we see a lot more people gravitating towards the quartz. And
how is that to work with in terms of between granite?
As far as in your kitchen, you have to. People don't understand this, but you have to seal granite. And not everybody knows that. And it's something that it's a maintenance thing. You have to continually do it every couple of years because it is porous. Now, the quartz, you don't have to seal it. It is fantastic for water and anything else. The only thing that you have to be careful of with quartz in a kitchen or in a bathroom is if you put heat on it, a hot pan or like a curling iron, somebody puts a hot curling iron, it will actually burn the quartz.
Come on. It's a rock.
Well, what?
I mean,
rocks burn, Jay. Look at meteors.
Okay, you got me there.
But it'll appear to be like, it'll look like rust, but it's actually a burn. But
wow.
From a cost perspective, like a mid-grade quartz is going to be the same as upper level granite. So people are gravitating towards that a lot more.
That's interesting.
And everybody likes the white finish now. So it goes
with the white cabinet.
Everything. And it's just kind of, it's timeless.
Right, yeah, it's timeless. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the additions, right? And I remember, we built that. We wanted to take our screen porch and turn it into a year-round porch that we could be, put in and do around. Are you seeing more of that?
Whenever I have a client that comes to me looking for a screened-in porch, in North Carolina, I always let them know. Let's be realistic of how many times you can just sit outside and enjoy the cool,
right,
not so humid weather.
Right.
You have maybe a 4 to 6 week window every year if you're lucky.
Yes, right.
And that, of course, is right near pollen season.
Right. Yeah.
So what I like to do, I always try and offer to the clients this a particular product called Easy Breeze Windows and Doors.
Okay.
And this particular manufacturer we give them the measurements from the floor decking right up to the underside, and they will actually fabricate a window that the sashes come out in either 3 or 4 panels, so they can all fold up.
Mm.
So if you had an 8-foot tall window
Mm.
and it was a 4 panel, it would collapse to be all in line to be only a 2-foot panel.
Right.
And all the windows have screens outbound of them. So you would just either push that 2-foot panel all the way to the top and allow the airflow to come through, or however you wanted to configure it. The thing that's really, really nice about this to me is when you use this, just the natural convection from the sun hitting the windows, this room now becomes really a 4-season room.
4-season room, yeah.
And you can very easily condition it by just tapping into an existing duct line and just putting one duct line out there just to cool it if you wanted to cool it. But as far as self-heating, the sun will do that in itself. Yeah. So what I find out is if people are going to spend, $20,000, $30,000 on a nice screened-in porch, spend the extra $2,000 or $3,000 for the cost over and above the regular screening, for the Easy Breeze windows and doors. Then you're going to be able to use it all the time.
Yeah, and I will say this: when we did those sliding, and by the way, it's kind of a plexi.
It's plexiglass. It's not true glass. That's right.
It's a plexiglass.
Yep.
But it's rated where they would take golf balls and a driver and hit them into it, and it wouldn't break.
No, because it actually flexes. Right?
Yeah. I've punched them to prove it. I've punched and my wife hated me doing that when I would go. No, look, and I would whack it, and she would stop. You're going to break them. Stop. But it was to demonstrate that they really are.
It's a fantastic product, and I would say probably 80% of the time that the clients are going to go for that 10% additional cost of the overall project to do that.
It's not hard. Well, first of all, it's not hard to heat and cool.
Right.
I mean, what we did was we decided to get one of these electric, looks like a fireplace, just a little electric.
Oh yeah, that's perfect.
Right, small. Right, looks like a little fireplace, glows, fake fire.
Plug it in when you need it.
You plug it in when you need it. It puts out some heat, and by the way, it heats up that room like that. And in the summer, right, you have your big ceiling fan, and because it generally opens up into another room, if you wanted to. You just open up the doors.
Well, that's a lot of the times what I try and also incorporate is how you get out of the house in that area.
Right.
We're seeing what's real popular now is these giant sliding doors that open up. And when you do that and you have a giant door that's opened up into this kind of indoor-outdoor living space, it's a fantastic flow and look for entertaining, right? It's literally another room.
Yeah.
So we do tons of that. Garages.
Okay, talk about garages.
Well, at one point in time.
I mean, are you building them from the ground up or are you renovating garages?
No, we'll build them from the ground up. Like some people, of course, you have a lot more of the younger generation because of the cost of housing now having to maybe stick around mom and dad's house a little bit longer than they want. Right. So we're seeing parents, doing things like, doing garages with like a living area upstairs for.
Oh, I see. Right. So there's a living area above the garage. Maybe you're building onto that or adding onto that garage as well.
Because you definitely want to get them out of the house, even if it's 35 feet away.
we do. Well, it's interesting. Tony Fink came on here 3 weeks ago and talked about generational housing, where literally it's like they build a house into the house for another generation, and it had it. I mean, it was like it had its own living room, kitchen, bathroom, laundry room.
Some states it's real easy to do that. In Raleigh, in the city limits, they have something called it's a code compliance thing called ADU, which is a additional dwelling unit. What they don't want you doing is separating some part of your existing dwelling to make it accessible to somebody to rent or live in, quote unquote, separately from the entire dwelling. Then it becomes more of a multifamily, falling under multifamily and apartment codes. Now, for instance, the state of Colorado, you can build you could build 10 little tiny houses on your property and have 10 people renting from you. So, which it may get to that at some point in time, because like I said, it's just gotten so expensive.
Well, this was one house.
Yeah, they built it with inside.
And they built this basically a second living quarters for, the elderly parents right inside the house.
We just did that for a client too. We ripped down their carport, added a garage, and then we ripped off the roof to make a whole mother-in-law, father-in-law suite above it. So, and that's the other thing. Even, as your family gets older, it's so expensive for, long-term health care and stuff like that. People are doing it in their own home.
Are you okay talking about your personal project that you got going on at the beach?
Absolutely.
Okay.
100%.
Because you are doing a new project at the beach. It's yours. You're building a house down there.
Correct.
What have you noticed for people who are thinking about building at the beach versus building more inland? What have you noticed from a construction standpoint that's a little bit different when it comes to building a home in the different areas? Like, what would you say?
Well, starting off, thank you again for being our real estate agent and getting us that lot down there at Carolina Beach. One thing that I will say about the beach, obviously beach construction and beach real estate is, we all know it's not cheap.
Right.
But a 2x4 down at the beach costs the same as a 2x4
in Raleigh
here.
Okay.
So you start thinking, like, why is it so much more? Obviously you have the cost of the land.
Right.
But if you were to extrapolate just the cost of the land away from the build cost of the project, the nuts and bolts and the parts and pieces should relatively be the same thing.
Right.
The raw material costs.
Right.
Now, labor is more accessible now than it used to be. I used to have a company down in Charlotte, and we were doing a lot of stuff down in St. James Plantation, which is a golf course community.
Been there.
Now we could have more work than we wanted to do and get paid twice as much money to do it. But the problem was, when it was sunny, nobody was working. Everybody was fishing or surfing. It's called beach time, Jay. I think you know it.
I do know it. You do too. Yes. You do too. We've been there together.
We've been there, and it's very easy for it to set into you. So I had a painter tell me one day that it was too sunny to paint. So I thought I would question him and say, "Oh, really? Does the sun come up on all four sides of the house at the same time? Why don't you start on the side opposite from where the sun comes up to be in the shade?" It was a perplexing response that I gave him, and he didn't know what to say. Needless to say, he went fishing. So anyway, so this leads me to the point where the duration of a job, $1 million house in Raleigh takes a year to build.
Yeah.
$1 million house at the beach takes 2 years to build. Now, from a contracting standpoint, if you're making 5 or 10% profit margin on your overall, if you make $50,000 or $100,000 on $1 million house in a year, are you still only going to make $100,000 on a house that takes you 2 years? Then you're actually doing the job for your job as a contractor for half. So one of the giant things that I'm seeing is the big cost down there is how much the general contractors have to charge to manage the project. And that's where, thankfully, I'm going to be very lucky with the build of the house, because we're going to self-perform all of that. But I would be having the same woes that any builder would have down there, dealing with, labor, duration. It takes a long time to do it. Logistically, it's harder. Your foundation's a little harder, but at the end of the day, we all know it's worth it, because it's called,
so you can have beach time. So we can have beach time, right?
Yes, sir.
We've done our time. It's gone really, really fast. I've really enjoyed having you on, and I'd love to bring you back.
I'd love to come back, Jay.
Tell people how they can get a hold of you if they'd like to ask more questions or use your services. How can they how can they reach you?
One thing people always will say about me, if you ask me, I am always able to get in touch with. So what I would do is I would just give out my mobile phone
Go
number,
ahead. Go ahead.
which is 919-868-2641. And that will
Repeat that again.
919-868-2641.
Yeah.
I assure you, if you call me, I will call you back or answer the phone. You hear homeowners say, oh, I had another contractor come out and quote it, and he never even gave me the quote.
Right.
It's like, I don't understand why people waste their time to go talk to a client and don't follow through with all the parts and pieces that you may or may not get the job. You're certainly not going to get it if you don't give them an estimate. Hello.
Well, you've been great, man.
Thanks, Jay.
Thanks for doing this.
No problem.
Stay with us. Folks, it's the show. You know, I say to you every week, you had a lot of choices. You chose us. Thank you for doing that. Give us a thumbs up on YouTube if you're watching there. If wherever you're watching, you know what? Why don't you just say, hey, thanks, or, you know, have a question that you'd like to answer on the show? Let us know. And also, if you're listening to us on podcast, give us a positive review wherever you're listening to us. All the viewers of DBTV, thanks for watching. Let them know that you enjoyed the show, and let us know what you'd like to hear as well. As I say to you all over the world, you know what that is? Ciao, everybody.